All right, protect yourself at all times. We are on it. Here we go. Ron Futrell with the latest, the greatest from the Vegas Sportscast for this. We're on a Friday. Okay, all righty. Getting ready for the weekend. And what a weekend it is going to be here in Vegas. Okay, it's Memorial Day weekend, so the Indy 500's happening. And obviously on Memorial Day weekend, things of a much more important nature than sports is what we talk about, and thank those who fought and died, sacrifice for the freedoms that we have here in this great land. But Stanley Cup final, that's happening here in Vegas on Monday. So you've got Media Day happening on Sunday at T-Mobile Arena. A lot of people are going to be gathered here, getting fired up about that. Vegas Golden Knights against the Washington Capitals. Who would have thunk? No, nobody. The answer to that is nobody would have thunk. Nobody would have predicted this at the start of the season. And we are here. Could you have seen Washington there? Well, yeah. Over the last few years, they've had the best record in the NHL during the regular season. They've done some great things. Have never won the Stanley Cup. Neither team has. But of course, the Vegas Golden Knights are in their first season. So that being said, got a classic matchup here. A lot of fun stuff going on with this. Game one is going to be Monday, 5:00, T-Mobile Arena. The Golden Knights have home ice advantage. They're a slight favorite in the game and in the series overall, and they should be, considering the way they played in these during the regular season and the Stanley Cup playoffs. By the way, in hockey, you don't get anything given to you. You earn everything you get. You could say that in any sport. I think it's more pronounced in hockey. You get everything that you deserve, that you work for, that you have. It's nothing's given to you, and there might be puck luck a little bit now and again on some things, but you make your own luck in this sport, and this team made its luck and created what they've done here. And it's funny that they're talking about on the national level, people are talking about this as being a prototype for the future of NHL teams. No, in the preseason they were picked to finish last everywhere. Now they're a prototype for the future. How's that for crazy? So, the storylines in this matchup, Vegas against Washington, started out with Nate Schmidt, defenseman who has become one of the best defensemen in the NHL this season, and he was cast off by Washington last year. The fans there loved him. Management had the tough decision to make, and he was not being used a whole lot on that squad in D.C., the Capitals. So, okay, get rid of him. Send him to Vegas. Vegas picked him up in the expansion draft, and he is now on the starting D-line, him and Braden McNabb, and becoming one of the best blue liners in the NHL. It is fun to just see what has happened with him, the progression. Nate's having fun. He's a great guy, great personality. Spotted that right off the bat with him when he first came here. So you've got that setup between Nate Schmidt playing against his old team is going to be fun. Also, George McPhee, the general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, was the GM fired by the Washington Capitals. He created that team in Washington. He created that monster team, Alex Ovechkin, and so on. Braden Holtby in the nets. We'll talk about the goalkeepers in a moment, but he created that team. So now he's the guy running the Golden Knights and created this franchise and this team here. So there you have it. This is those are two great storylines. Another one, speaking of goalies, Marc-Andre Fleury is the cap killer. I was careful how I pronounced that, okay? Cap, C-A-P, as in Washington Capitals. He's knocked them out of the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years, maybe, in the Nets. They can't get past Marc-Andre Fleury. When he was with Pittsburgh was the nemesis of the Washington Capitals, knocking them out of the playoffs, and it was Fleury in the Nets most of the time for that. And they do not like seeing him there. Alex Ovechkin, the main guy, top scorer in the NHL this year, he is, speaking of prototype, he is probably the best NHL player we've ever seen that has that combination of scoring and strength and power. And he's a Mack truck. He will come down the ice and just Mack truck you. Oh, but he's a very talented scorer. So he's like I said, number one in the NHL in goals this past season. So that's what you've got there. And Ovechkin and Fleury, is there a mutual respect, I would imagine. A lot of players in the NHL don't like Ovechkin. Maybe it's because he's Russian. It might be part of it, but that's not all of it. But he is, and the fact that he's so good, and he's brutal on the ice, and there's some animosity between players. They'll talk off the record and a little bit about, and they don't like talking about. They don't talk about Ovechkin in glowing terms. Now on the record, yes, they'll say all the right things. Off the record, there's some issues. So that is that's the matchup here, and I think it's a great one. Holtby, by the way, in the nets for the Capitals, has back-to-back shutouts against Tampa Bay. Oh, that's all he's done. And that's tremendous. That is phenomenal. Most people pick Tampa Bay to win the Cup, win the final. Well, at the start of the playoffs, it was Tampa Bay this, Tampa Bay that. In the Final Four, everybody was going Tampa Bay. But now it's down to these two teams that nobody thunk, and certainly not with the Golden Knights. And this story of the expansion team going all the way to the final is once in a lifetime. Maybe even more. It hasn't happened in a few lifetimes, okay? It hasn't happened, period, in sports where an expansion team has done this. Now, let me go here. Okay, people mentioned 1967 St. Louis. They were an expansion team. They made the final. Different rules then. No, that has to be explained. It should be discounted as not even counting, discounted period, because the rules were they expanded to 6 new teams. That was the year the Kings came into the league, and they had the original 6, and they added 6 more teams, and they had a separate bracket for the expansion teams, so an expansion team was guaranteed to make the finals. That's all there was to it. One of the expansion teams was going to play one of the original 6 in the final. So St. Louis was the best of the expansion teams, thus in the final, and got blown out. So that doesn't count. And I think that Toronto, somebody said, well, Toronto made it in 1918. Okay, 1918, second year of the NHL. They were a new expansion team. Again, the same thing came into play, is there were so few teams in the NHL back then, and it was in different rules over and how you get it. So, okay, they did. Let's put it this way. If you want the qualifier, I'll give you the qualifier. In the modern era of the NHL, no team has done this. But I would even, that disclaimer, throw that out the window. You've seen expansion teams in other sports and seen what they've done, okay? You know what I'm talking about. Growing up in L.A. as a Dodger fan, saw the Dodgers, Brooklyn Dodgers, came to L.A. and won right away. They were the Brooklyn Dodgers. They were a great team. Koufax, Drysdale, go down the list. Willie Mays, Ron Fairley, Willie Davis, Tommy Davis, just a great team. Shortly after that, right around that same time, the Los Angeles Angels came to be an expansion team. They were horrible for years, horrible for decades. Finally won a World Series in 2002, but horrible for 10 years, 15 years, and finally became competitive. So that's typical of expansion teams. That's what you expect. You don't expect an expansion team to go out there and do what this team has done this year. It has captivated this city. It is fun to see. It is fun to watch. It is fun to be a part of as a reporter and be there and see this team day in, day out, and how they've progressed, how they've grown, what they've done. That part I've absolutely enjoyed. Being a hockey fan, number one, I've enjoyed it. Number two, being a Vegas fan, in the sense that I love this city, lived here for 34 years, love to see what's happened here. And I've said this often, I'll say it again, and it's the highest compliment I can pay the Vegas Golden Knights, is that they have brought the same feel to this community as Rebel basketball did back in the day when they were winning a national championship and going to 3 Final Fours in 5 years. That same feel in the community, period. So, looking forward to game 1. Okay? Looking forward to this weekend. A lot of stuff we're going to have on 8 News now. Later tonight, I'm doing an interview today with Gavin Maloof. Gavin was there at the beginning. He was ground zero. Let's go there. He was ground zero when the NHL wanted to put a franchise here, and he wanted to get an NHL franchise. And I believe, I'm going to find this out today, I don't know who contacted who. I think it was Gavin Maloof contacting the NHL. He was friends with Gary Bettman because Bettman used to be in the NBA, and the Maloofs used to own an NBA team. Two of them, actually, the Houston Rockets and Sacramento Kings. So they've owned these teams, and Bettman is approached, how about a team in Vegas? And so they get together, chat, talk about it, make it happen, and then call in Bill Foley, big money dude with Fidelity, billionaire, and I believe the ownership ratio is 85% Foley, 15% Maloof. That's what I've heard reported. So I'm sitting down with Gavin today doing an interview, so we'll sort all of this stuff out. But they also, when they owned the Palms, the Maloof family here in Vegas, they were the first to bring the NHL award show here to Vegas. And it was there. And that was fun. That was great. That was a great time had by all. Marvelous event. Way to go, everybody. And love seeing that there. And that was the NHL's introduction to Vegas. Used to have Frozen Fury played at the MGM Grand Garden when the Kings would come here and play a game or a series against exhibition hockey. I was at Caesars Palace 91 when the Kings played the Rangers in an exhibition game outdoors there. So an interesting hockey history here in town, but I'm going to get down to the bottom of this, and so we'll have it for you tonight, 6:30. We do a special hockey show on 8 News Now. We'll have part of that interview with Gavin Maloof. And then over the weekend, we're doing special half-hour shows and post-game shows, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing content-wise on 8 News Now, giving you the latest and the greatest of what's happening with the Vegas Golden Knights in the final. By the way, they do refer to it as the final. It might be a Canadian thing. Maybe not the finals. NBA has the NBA finals with an S. Stanley Cup has the final, they call it. Okay? So a little distinction there, and it's not noticed by most people, but it is a little distinction in the way that they word it and the way they write it and the way it's done. So that's happening. We're going to have, again, the event for Media Day happening this weekend here in town Sunday. That's going to take place. No workout today for the Vegas Golden Knights over at City National Arena. They're having a day off, well-deserved day off. That's the way they had a tough practice yesterday. It was a hard practice yesterday. So taking a day off and then going to hit it starting Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday with a morning skate in the game. Wow. It's still hard for me to believe we got a Stanley Cup final in Vegas with the home team in its inaugural season. That's it. All right, that's the way I see it. I'm Ron Futrell. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye for now. Hope you've enjoyed the Vegas Sportscast.